All right, I believe we are live. So it's been a minute. It's been a very busy week. So today we're going to be doing a Q&A. So we'll start with introductions real quick. I'm the owner of section8consulting.com. I work with clients every year, thousands of them. And you can check out our website and so on. A lot of people struggle trying to get answers, whether you're dealing with a housing authority, you're dealing with HUD, you're dealing with 211. There's a lot of questions, and the pandemic has made this system of things very difficult for people to be able to get realistic answers. There certainly is no big playbook. It's a menagerie of things that have been put together by law, federal code, and so on. And by the way, we have lots of cats. There's one of my Siamese. So, as a further introduction, many people know that I have a lot of cats. They are part of the video. We'll be talking about them a little later for those of you that are pet lovers. So it's a menagerie of a program, and it's not what it used to be back in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s and the early 2000s. And here we are, the late 2000s, and we're moving on and on and on. So you're talking about decades of different policies, procedures, and operation things. And every time we get a new president, there are new mandates, and HUD changes their directors of programs. And so, it's a lot to take in. And, when you look at Google as a resource for information, I think it's fantastic for a lot of things, but it's not for Section 8. It's not for finding housing. It's certainly not to apprise you of your rights if you've been discriminated against and so on. And the reason it's not is there aren't a lot of people that publish on the topic, and the few that do publish anything on this particular topic, they've copied other people from very old articles. So the information, for the most part, is irrelevant and would not help you. And then you also look at state and county level. So you presume that every housing authority operates the same, right? It's a federal program, but it's not. They don't all operate the same way. So even if you did glimmer a small piece of information off of Google, that person would have given you their knowledge for that specific county and that specific state dealing with that specific housing authority. And thus the information would be useless unless you live there. You see my point? So, as a consultant, I work as a federal program, I work across all 50 states. So it's my job to kind of know what's going on with a lot of housing authorities. Not all of them, but there's a lot. For every county, you may have anywhere from one to, up to 3 or 4 housing authorities, depending on the size. And so that's a lot to keep up with. Trust me. Also, we should say this. This is a live video. It's live right now. So, you can chat with me if you're on the phone, you're on your tablet, you're on your TV, and so on. Don't be shy, because let me tell you something, getting advice about anything, getting answers is a difficult thing these days, especially with many housing authorities closed. And oftentimes, the little bit of information you do get live from possibly a PHA, PIH, or a housing authority, they don't have time to educate people. They're certainly not going to publish a big manual for you to look at. And so you're wandering around the holes of YouTube and other places looking for those answers. So, Mr. Good afternoon. How are you, my friend? Glad to see you in chat. And so that's the one person commenting. And then we got Miss Renee. How are you today? Glad to have you in here. Greetings and thank you for sharing. Yeah, absolutely. Jojo Girl says, hi, Jay. Is Kitty doing well? And did you pick her up? So what I'd like to do, guys, is many of you know, I don't just handle Section 8. I rescue cats. I quite enjoy that. And I incorporate part of that into the channel. And it's not to juice you guys up to get memberships or whatever. Of course, that's lovely, but I do it because I care, all right? So for those of you that are under the constraint that you're only here for information and that my cats are irrelevant and it's aggravating for you to watch my video, please dislike the video and leave. That's how we handle that, okay? So let's talk about Miss Kitty. First thing I'm going to do is show you the bills. This is going to blow your mind. So as you'll know that I had, and we're going to get back to Section 8 in just a minute. I'm just going to cover a few topics about the newest rescuer. So we've had her now 12 days. And of the 12 days, she spent 11 days pretty much at the vet's ICU. And so here are some of the bills that I had to keep her alive on IV, catheter, tube feeding, and she takes approximately 7 different medications. So I think today's total was from Championwood. I want to mention this veterinarian. She's really good. $447 just for that bill. That was today. Here's another one. Yesterday, $447. And then another day, I'm just going to go this briefly here. $347. And then $237 this particular day was another one of those days. And then another bill after that from a day prior to that as well. This is all in the past 7 days. And I think that's the last one I'm going to read off to y'all because it's not important to show you bills, okay? So this one was $612. So to save this cat's life, I'm in, and now this is just this veterinary, not the other one, about $3,000. 1-year-old cat, bad owners, and this is what happens. So if you ever decide you want to rescue cats, make sure you're committed to that because they require more than just fresh water and 50 cents in Walmart cat food. Sometimes when you save cats, they can cost you a lot of money, okay? I have the means to do so. I realize it's not in everybody's deal to do so, but I do quite care, and I'm glad that I was the one that found her because God knows if it had been somebody else, they might not have been able to afford to do it, and that would have been a terrible situation for the cat. So I love these cats as much as I love y'all because I work with clients, obviously, that don't have a great deal of income, and nobody else does care. You know, nobody cares if people get the right answer about Section 8. Nobody cares whether or not you're able to navigate the list and get housing. Nobody cares if somebody puts you out on the street, gets discriminated against, and so on. So I think there's some parallels between the treatment of cats and my clients. Because in this job, you're either the biggest con artist that ever survived YouTube and having a YouTube channel, or you actually do care about the people and the cats that you deal with. I don't get that many cat clients, but I certainly get a lot of y'all. All right, so where's she at right now? And then I'm going to skip back to the part about Section 8. I know you guys are here for answers, so we'll stop with the cats here in a minute. So she needs 3 more treatments, another $1,500 of IVs and so on, and I believe that she will be able to sufficiently survive on her own, and I think that was a good investment. She's a good used car. That means she'll have to stay for life. And I won't regret my life for doing it. I had a choice. I could go out to get the fanciest new TV for $7,000, or I could save a life. I think I made the right choice. All right, so I'm going to answer a few comments here. I see Christine Hepner, HCB program participant here. Information on portability, please. Okay, so let's go over portability. Portability is one of the most popular topics of this channel. So many people ask about it. So let's talk a little about portability in a simple way because there's many different people that try to make it too complex. If you have a voucher, you're in the program, and you have a housing choice voucher, you have portability. If you're a tenant-based client or you're a project-based client, it means the voucher you have is not portable, and you'd have to request to convert your voucher. Now, that being said, there is a notice that you would give to your landlord, a 30-day notice, and then you would speak to the portability specialist for the housing authority that you're in. So your county. Now, not every housing authority can afford to be big like Los Angeles, where they have a specific portability specialist. So it would be director of services or whoever your caseworker is there. You would initiate that request to see if it's possible. And the first question will be whether or not you have actually successfully completed 12 months under a HAP contract, under your lease, and been in the program 12 months. If so, do you have good cause for wanting to leave the particular county and state you're in to go to the next place? It may be another county in the state or another state. And with that being said, that requires them sending an RTAF packet over to the forwarding housing authority, the receiving housing authority, and then finding out whether or not they would want to bill or absorb. The concept of billing and absorbance is rather simple. Let's pretend here's New York, here's Florida. If you're leaving New York and you're going to Florida, then the billing aspect would be you're going down to Florida, and Florida will simply send a bill to New York, and New York will cut a check. Cities don't like that billing process because it means they're paying for a person that should technically be in their city. So the absorbing process is you being in New York, and you get down to Florida, and they say, okay, relinquish the New York voucher, and we'll simply give you a voucher of our own, okay? We're not going to send a bill to New York. That's a simple explanation. Beyond that, I think you need to be adequately prepared. You go travel across the nation, you need to make sure that the market can support, first of all, can support the housing. So you get down there and there's not enough housing or places for you to find a place, you could end up losing that voucher and end up in some cheap hotel, and then life can go upside down on you. Second to that, in rare cases, housing authorities can change their mind when you arrive. Maybe something didn't check out. So this is a cooperation between two housing authorities. And I think we've had a lot of discussions about housing authority employees having attitudes. So you can imagine what happens when you have two different housing authorities, county to county or state to state, with attitudes. And so sometimes they have problems amongst themselves because they both have a set of obnoxious policies and procedures, and both are pushing the other to do something different. And you see how that works out. It's like having two devils in a bag and you shake them up. What happens, you know? So you need to make sure you're adequately planning. If you don't know how to plan and make sure that there are properties available out there, then you should be getting a consultant. It doesn't need to be me, but you need to find someone that can help you in that arena. Beyond that, I think that if you have accommodations, so you've been up there in New York, you're leaving to go down to Florida, they're going to grant your request to go down and use that voucher and go look for a place. Well, just when you get to Florida, it does not mean necessarily if you're in New York and they've given you all these accommodations. Well, they said that I can have 15 bedrooms, a handicap ramp, and the landlord must cook for me once a week. Now, that's an extreme example and not real, but what I'm saying is the accommodations of the state of New York and the county and the housing authority you're dealing with, they may get your voucher down there in Florida and strip it down to nothing but a voucher. They may remove all those accommodations and say, you know what, she's getting way too much stuff out of New York. We're just trim it down to just a basic voucher. And then if she wants these accommodations, she'll need to apply for them fresh again. So what you have there may not translate to where you're going. All right. So that's the short example. The bigger example is you would need to read a portability guide, and then that's, probably a couple hundred pages. So yeah. All right, going back to the comments here, and I'm going to continue to answer questions best I can, as long as it's not a stupid question like, how do I get Section 8? Because that would require me to sit here and make a video that would be 900 hours straight, and then we would all die trying to watch it, from boredom. So, Go-To says, you're an angel, Jay. I appreciate that. I believe you're referring to an earlier D when I was talking about this cats. Cynthia Rose Johnson, looks like your comment was retracted for one reason or another. JoJo girl, you were meant to find her, Jay. I think so. She is, going back to the earlier part, we'll talk about the cat again. I think so. She's going to be a good fit, and she'll be here till the day she goes. And so when I get over here tonight, now my veterinarian does not allow overnight care of a cat. So I'm going to have to feed her tonight and so on. And she'll go in again tomorrow. Sunday's closed, so I have to take care of her then and then take her back. So she's been spending 12 hours a day, every day for nearly 10 days trying to get her better between two veterinarian hospitals. So, all right, skipping back to Section 8. Christine Hepner, can I apply for port to move? Okay, so no, so you're asking whether or not you can pick multiple locations to port. Now, your housing authority or portability specialist is going to tell you pick a place, and they'll open a request. If that request fails for that particular housing authority across the nation or in another county, then you may jump to another. But you may not apply in Miami, Chicago, New York, and all the rest of them all at the same time. They won't allow that. And that's a lot of work for the portability specialist. And then she's going to perceive that you're not taking this seriously, and may even think you may have a loose screw. And I mean that in the best possible way. Lady TH, how's it going? Good to see you in the channel. I am trying to move out to Alexandria, Virginia. Is there a county that are quicker to get info? Please help me. I need housing as soon as possible. Well, the thing about that is picking counties. So let's talk about some of the dynamics that I've seen play out over time. Now, when you deal with housing authorities, it really does come down to the size of the city, meaning population, and it also comes down to the population and demand of the homeless in the city. Homeless people have a very major big impact on how long these lists are per normal Section 8. So what I find is populations, if you pick a county where you have approximately 100 to 150,000, that is the most opportune population size. Picking counties where it's 100 to 150. I'm not suggesting you can't go higher, 500,000 to 750,000. But the sweet spot that I've seen is that around those numbers there. Avoiding states like California, New York, Vegas, and so on, states that we know that are already out of essential vouchers and other things where they're already inundated, may be a good idea for now, at least till the pandemic and the effect it's having on housing are over with. And I believe that we are coming out of the pandemic. However, the dip, the housing, and how quickly we're able to get vouchers for people, and their ability to get housing is getting easier, but it's gotten easier a little bit and then it's leveled off because the problem is the crisis with housing has always existed. So, though it has gotten somewhat easier, it's leveled off and it's still just being difficult until the next big thing transpires, like another pandemic. And for us, that brings us to this one very big topic. We've all seen it on the news, okay? So, understand that the topic I'm going to talk about is going to be Russia. And so you're thinking, well, what does Russia have to do with housing? Just like a pandemic created a problem, you see, it creates problems financially, and so I believe that's the situation as it plays out and causes inflation in the country is going to cause a problem in housing. Okay, believe it or not, just like they say in those movies, a butterfly in Southeast Asia flaps its wings, and then something changes the course of a whole nation. Well, this war is creating all kinds of issues, and it's also creating a lot of expenses. And of course, if things were to grow out of control between that nation and ours, and then other big things could happen. And then, so there's a lot of things going on. And also the migration of millions of people that coming from that nation. I think we're starting to accept some. So we're going to see some things play out that are going to create probably more problems with Section 8 housing and low income housing, affordable housing, and so on. Okay, Crystal Hefner has prayer hands up. I appreciate you there. And she says, thank you. So, again, I want to reiterate this video is about questions in relation to affordable housing, low income housing, Section 8, Section 811 for those that are disabled and under 62, Section 8 for those that require Section 202, which means 62 and older with a disability, Section 504 for those that are 24 and younger that may be in college or aging out of a group home or adoptive parents. Okay. For those of you that have suffered domestic violence, there are programs like VAWA, which is domestic violence against women. For those that have suffered through HIV or AIDS, there are programs called HOPWA, HOPWA, that can help you there. These are all different types of funding attached to the voucher. For those of you that have served our nation in any capacity, including the U.S. Coast Guard, we have programs called VASH or HUD-VASH that can assist you with vouchers in that manner. Then those of you that are on the fringe, about to lose a lease, about to lose a home, or maybe you're already homeless, maybe you're surfing a couch, you have programs called Housing First that's administered through CES, which is the Coordinated Entry System. Coordinated Entry System gives you three obvious options. One would be rapid rehousing, RRH. And rapid rehousing is where you have somebody that's been destabilized by the pandemic. It allows them to pay rent over a period of possibly up to 2 years. And as the months go on, at first, they'll pay most of the rent. And then as the months go on, the rent payments will start to decrease until they wing you out of the system. Okay. So that is a value for those of you that want to re-enter the job market. Now, PSH is for those that you may suffer through physical or mental issues, okay? And you may need a permanent system of housing that has wraparound services. In other words, some of the afflictions you may be suffering from require additional things like Meals on Wheels, caseworkers, care aids, and so on, in addition to a higher rent stamp, which means they would pay a vast majority of rent. So PSH is what that's called, and that is permanent supportive housing. You should look into it. And last but least, used to in the old days, EHV or emergency housing vouchers were issued by housing authorities exclusively. However, the pandemic changed that dynamic, and now what's happened is they've moved EHVs over to COC, which is the Continuum of Care, CES, Housing First. It has many names, doesn't it? And so what happens there is it gives an opportunity for people on the fringes, possibly homeless, going to be imminently homeless, or already homeless, which is a lot of people. Aren't we always on the fringe in a tough economy? If you are, and they give you an assessment, which is a test where they ask you questions through BOSS system. They also have SPDAT, SPDAT system, and it has questions around 30. If you were somehow to get a high enough score, it would be applicable for them to consider you for RRH, PSH, or EHV. EHV is the golden goose. Why? Because it's such a simple test, really, to actually get a high score. and it would grant you one of the best vouchers in the nation outside of Section 811. And so that's a pretty fast way to skip the line, isn't it, if you know how to do it? In relation to that, there are other ways that you may be backdoored a voucher. So some of you tell me, oh, well, you know what? The housing authority has been closed since 1981. We're not doing that. They're not doing nothing. You're wrong about that. They're, every housing authority may, under federal law, keep in reserve 10 to 15% of all vouchers. They don't have to tell you a damn thing about what they're doing with them. And that may even be on a closed waiting list for decades. Those vouchers are kept in reserve quietly for people that are referred from possibly maybe a domestic violence survivor that has a court case. And so the district attorney's office can make a direct appeal and referral to them. And that would be allow you to grant a voucher quietly. You see my point? Same thing with American Red Cross and other federal, state, and county organizations can quietly sometimes get them. For those of you that receive treatment through the state for mental health, okay? I'm not talking about a high paid psychiatrist in a private hospital. I'm talking about when the state or your city actually owns the mental facilities, okay? Where it's sliding scale and you're dealing with your actual city hospital, not a random for profit one, then they have the ability to make a referral. And that can be a very quick means for you to jump in the market, get a voucher quicker than anybody else. It's backdooring a voucher. It's quite a process, and you'd have to have pretty extensive knowledge. Thankfully, I've gotten pretty good. I know a lot of people from over the years. I've probably got in my Rolodex close to, I don't know, 60 to 70 housing authority employees, including one director, a former director of a major city. So I've fed all kinds of information on a constant basis. And, it changes a lot. Every time we have a new president, it's more tears because you got more to read. So I think we have a lot of options. Now, another thing we need to understand is the complexity of the voucher itself. A lot of you guys have in your mind, the main word always here is Section 8, and I use it a lot too. But let's think of this. So let's talk about the structure of HUD, the housing authority, to help you straighten out the way you look at this stuff. It better help you. So you've got Congress that issues money. That comes on down a little bit, and that goes to HUD. HUD administers the money. HUD is not the housing authority. HUD is not in your neighborhood, and HUD ain't going to give you a key to anything. HUD just cutting checks down to housing authorities. Housing authorities are owned and operated by the county that they're in, which means those are county employees. They are not HUD. Okay? When things go bad at the housing authority and you got a complaint, you take it up to HUD. You got a problem with the housing authority and HUD, you take it up to FHEO, which is fair housing. Okay, so there's several tiers of this where you can get help. Beyond that, let's talk about the type of vouchers and how those play out. So besides me rattling off all these subsections of code, and that's what that is. When you talk about Section 8, it's Section 8 of code, Section 811 of code, Section 202 of code. Okay, so you have tax code and then you have civil code. And so federal code. And so these are referring to funding levels that are attachments to those vouchers. And that's where we get a little bit deeper into what that really is for you guys. When you apply and you give certain answers, they're looking to see which string they can attach to the voucher. Is she 62 and disabled? All right, well, we're going to load up this voucher and make it pull our funding from 202. If you're under 62 and you're disabled, we're going to pull a string and we're going to fill up that voucher with what they would call Section 811. Or you may have multiple strings and multiple levels of funding being fed in the voucher because you're a domestic violence victim and you might be a veteran or many things. And you could have a whole lot of strings, which means a lot of priorities. We could push you very, very near the top, the more problems you have, clearly. Let me dispel a few rumors about Section 8 and vouchers, guys. One, this is not an African-American or Black program, okay? Those racist concepts need to stop. The program is for everybody, okay? Especially seniors. Second, when it comes to housing choice vouchers, I would say that these days, it doesn't matter how many children you have. Again, another a racist thing that's played out on the news and it's been exasperated. That needs to stop. What we're looking at in principle today is what vouchers are for, or generally for those that are seniors, veterans, those that have mental and physical disabilities. Also, those of you that are just simply have a temporary crunch on life. Things have happened. You pay your taxes, you go to your job, and you need help for a couple of years. And so you're able to enter the system and then exit, okay? So we have to put relegating these things into all these naughty things we learned, especially for those of you who are old enough to remember the 80s and 70s. A lot of that is just terrible. And I have to constantly educate landlords, because if you don't, then you're going to bias to everybody. So it's important that we have fair and reasonable education when it comes to this. It is a program that serves all that are Americans. If you're an American, you're certainly entitled to utilize a program which you pay taxes into. Okay, this is not a welfare state or a program. It is just as. Let me ask you a question: when you retire and you get a Social Security check, you don't think that's welfare? It's your government check, isn't it? So, I mean, if we're going to use the concept and bias ourselves on the concept of vouchers, then we can say the same thing about that government check, Social Security. You can say the same thing about Medicare. They're all just what do they call? What do we call that? Those programs in the country, the feel good programs. Well, there's lots of them, but they're necessary because not everybody's born with two sets of legs and eyes. People become injured. Some people get too old and can no longer care for themselves. There are people that serve our nation that have had half their limbs blown off, and so this is what it's for. So never feel bad about needing this. Just feel bad about if you stay too long when it's not necessary. And just as a reminder, I'm not going to help young boys and girls out of high school that have a job at Taco Bell and feel entitled to a voucher because they don't want to do anything better with your life. I don't help naughty people. It's I'm helping people that actually would need this critically. Turn out cases all the time from idiots. That's just a reality. We're here to serve the people that need it, not people that simply feel entitled to get into the system. And that crosses every color on the board: brown, black, white, whatever. Okay, if you can work, go work. All right, so let's get on back to these questions here real quick. Giovanni, welcome to the channel. I am also disabled. Does that make a difference? Absolutely. Disability is a primary factor. Let me give you the top three primary factors that housing authorities will consider as a preference in most cases. One's going to be disability, one's going to be age, whether or not you're a veteran, and whether or not you have been a victim of domestic violence. Those are all major factors, and they have a different impact on how you're ranked. Essentially. But what are the beginning factors? So for you to get inside the gate, so you're standing at the halls of the housing authority, there's actually a process of elimination. Do you live in that county? Do you work in that county? And are you actually emphatically low income? Believe it or not, HUD's a very interesting beast. It considers different levels of broke and busted. So it's not good enough simply to be poor. You must be broke. But then if you're going to be broke, you must be another tier below that called very low income. Very low income is established across a lot of states and counties. The numbers fluctuate because of the amount of money people make in different states. But I would say people are making between nothing and about 30 grand would be considered extreme low income. And that would be the most preferential on your application to give you some priority. Whether or not you received a fixed income or you're working in the county doesn't matter. They want to service those that live in the county first. However, if you look at that, there's certainly the possibility, if we look at homeless folks that travel county to county, they can cross the line anytime during the day, right? So there are ways to get around the policy of actually having to live in the county. But I would caution you on not being too deceptive with that. And I'm not encouraging anybody to break the law or anything like that. I'm just saying that, a lot of this whole program shot is filled with loopholes. Okay. Some by design and some by just poor management over the years. The program's been running in 80 years. Look, it's garbage stacked on garbage. They don't actually rewrite and do a clean manual. They just keep adding more and more BS to this. And so now it's become the sophisticated beast they can barely control. And then it's further relegated out to the other housing authorities that create new policies on top of that, along with a bunch of bad actors that don't like working at the housing authority, have attitudes, talk to people like they're condescending and other things. So you see how it can get complex quick, especially if a housing authority employee is being paid a nickel an hour and she can't stand answering the phone or even want to answer your questions, which is a very large portion of a lot of housing authorities, is just very low income people working there. And so you see where the fire and the gas is. Moving on down, TH Lady, part 2, I am disabled at extremely low income. I want to get in a nice area with my granddaughter. Well, I certainly would agree with you on wanting to do that. And there are always nice areas, but sometimes Um, you have to take a look at all the relevant housing authorities in the area and see which one's going to be the best. And I think preferentially what you're looking for, obviously them being open, they're issuing a voucher, and whether or not you have a lot of preferences. And that may seem very straightforward, but it's not always. A lot of work does involve compelling the housing authority, which means putting out a demand letter, doing an open request, which means compelling them to give you information that they would otherwise wouldn't want to give you for free, like the number of vouchers or the reason specifically that month they're giving a voucher out. Or they giving out just to the homeless, or they give it to domestic violence victims. So understanding what they're looking for before you even bother to waste your time on the housing authority is an extremely important part. How long do open requests, state requests, federal requests take? They can take a week. They can take 2 weeks. Some housing authorities play a clever game of you're only allowed to ask one question per request. So you see how this becomes convoluted quickly. Others will simply ignore your request. So it makes that research, you getting that sweet information that would help further your case, very hard. Okay. Trust me, I know. I do it all the time. Moving down, Nikki Richards. When are they going to open up Section 8 in the city of Chicago? It has been closed for about 7 years now. It'll likely be closed another 3 years, but that is only a thought. I'm seeing more and more often that HUD's mandating the minute a housing authority gets a small group of vouchers, which means enough funding to issue a minimum of 5 or 10 vouchers, that they're having them open and just disperse them. In the old days, they'd wait till they collect a whole bunch and then they would close for years or a decade. Now, what I'm seeing is to better serve us through the pandemic, rather than wait a decade and collect a big pile of 2,000 vouchers, they're now starting to issue vouchers almost as they have the money to do so, which means I've seen a lot of housing authorities the first time from their inception that they're now starting to open up, almost every month, but they only have a few little vouchers. And it's always going to be for a specific reason. And if you're not exactly what they're looking for, they're not going to want to give it to you. So that goes back to the concept of a lot of when they say, oh, we got an open waiting list, please apply. What they really mean is, yeah, we've got an open waiting list. Yes, we're going to let you all foolishly apply. But actually, the only people we're really going to give them to are the ones that have a disability, possibly with some domestic violence involved, and were recently homeless. Now, that's just a weird combination I'm giving, but you see my point. You'd want to know what the housing authority is actually willing to issue for before you apply. All right, so I'm going to take a swig of my coffee. And no, I'm not sponsoring McDonald's. And it's not McDonald's coffee, it's house coffee in a McDonald's cup. All right, so I see Jackie M's here. She's a longtime client and half her friends as well. So I know Miss Jackie pretty well. Glad to see you, Miss Jackie. We've been talking about cats, we've been talking about war, and we've been going to war with the housing authorities and HUD to see what we can get folks, hopefully, to be able to answer their questions. So Nikki Richards says, and why when? Okay, let me reread that question. Why do you get denied for Section 8 housing for previous evictions? When you apply for Section 8, does it matter how many evictions you have? Okay, so the eviction part of this plays into one thing. Um, if you've been a previous client owning a voucher, you actually awarded the voucher and then became evicted, that matters. That means you're not able to survive the program and they may pause you for 5 years. If you became evicted while not being in the program, then there's no effect. If you have a voucher, if you want a voucher and you have an eviction, then it comes down to whether or not the landlord would accept you. Having more than one eviction is bad no matter what. So the reality is, if you want to change that, the most applicable way would likely be to move out the state. Though evictions do follow you around the nation because of the way people check, I find that evictions less often show up in different states because most landlords don't want to pay to do the whole nationwide eviction check. So I'd say just use caution. And if you do have one, you might end up having to wait 5 years. Oh, man. We're going along pretty good tonight. So, the Bergs, hey, man, welcome to the channel, or her, he or her. I dare you ignore me. Well, I'll do better than that, man. I'll block you here. So, I'm going to click on this. Hide user. So there you go. I solved your problem. All right. So, Mr. Berg's been ignored. And I gave him what he requested. I blocked him. Nikki Richards, how are you doing? And I'm sad to hear you're disabled. Blanca, I'm in Georgia. I need a disability housing or a Section 8, I guess. Well, in Georgia, clearly we have a lot of counties there, and so I don't really know which county you're in, and I definitely don't know your case details. Case details are like age, where you live, what county. So let me tell you something, guys. There's a rather compelling perception we do have, and that's if I'm old and I have a disability, that should mean I'm number one on the list. It does not. In fact, that probably greater than 80% of all people that apply are both disabled and old. So that only actually just puts you in a much larger group of people waiting. Again, it goes back to having a lot of preferences in order to rank yourself higher. So yeah, Violence or Us. I always did like that name. So I think, Violet, you won the interesting name of the day again, 2 times already. Looks like Burrs has been blocked. You did ask me to do it, Mr. Burrs. And then, it's Violet, not violence. So I should quit saying that. So, anyways, all right, guys. So let me show you Miss Muffin. Y'all want to see her? She's wrapped up in a blanket for obvious reasons. She does have IB in her. So we just see her quietly. She's sitting in the office with me. And of course, if you look up, you'll see the Muffin up there. Lots of them. If you watch, they'll pass along. But here we go. You'll have to ignore the mess. So there she is. She's very tired. She's been at the hospital all day, every day. Hello, Mama. And I think she's had her night meds, so she's sleepy. And if you look carefully, there's her little bandage, little cheetah wrapping. That's where they keep the IV. She's off of it now. All right. So she's sleeping, and tonight she'll be sleeping with me as usual. Gonna feed a little water, a little food, and keep her right here. She does not like to be alone. I don't blame her. She's going through a very rough period. Just cats, the sheer will to live 10 days and damn near die. So she's got a lot of will to live as a rescue. And so, but yeah, she's a little rough tonight. So we're gonna get her fed and keep her with me. You got to keep close, because the cat senses whether or not people care. I'm pretty sure they do, don't they? So, it's just like my clients. You have to care. If you don't care about what's happening with people and animals and so on, then you're really just doing this job for money. So Section 8 consulting is also about caring, except for my bad clients. So, but you know how that goes. All right, so about ours, you give me some laughy faces. Bianca says, "Okay, looked at your website, and I'm looking for a consult. Thank you so much." Well, I hope you enjoyed that website, and let me give you guys that are curious. I'm not suggesting anybody needs to hire me. Okay, my reputation is certainly out there. I've got hundreds of reviews, but there are other consultants. There's a lady, matter of fact, on YouTube. She on Monday, she's an expert at fidget spinners. On Tuesday, she's a master consultant, an engineer. And then on Wednesdays, she bakes cookies and is a master engineer of that. So we have delusional people going on advice. So YouTube's full of people that you would find at children's birthday parties and stuff like that. They're always one step ahead of all of us. And, all right. So I'm going to give you all these links here and take a minute here to do that. Man, you can tell this coffee I made. I tell you what, I'm about to pop out my shirt because it is actually too much caffeine. All right. So, anyways, that's add booking software inside of the website. So y'all can look at prices. Another thing, if you decide you need a consultant, okay. My advice to you is try calling the housing authority. Talk to them first, and when they talk to you sideways and treat you like a $2 trick on 3rd Street, then you'll move on to 211. And then you'll call 211, and the people there will be a lot like talking to people at the county jail. And when they talk trash to you, you think, you know what, I'm going to come back and talk to this guy making these videos. And then y'all going to realize I have the website, and there's a whole lot more going on as a consultant. But I like for y'all to keep it spicy. Give the housing authority, give that crazy woman at the housing authority a call and tell her that you want her job. And if she don't give you every manual in the building, you're gonna call 911 on her. And then when y'all figure that part out, you give me a call and I'll show you the right way to throw them under the bus. That's why I always tell clients, I'll let you figure it out. You'll loop back. I'll see you in about a month when the shit goes real bad. You'll be back, Hey, man, you know what? You're right. We should probably talk about my case because I didn't like how the people 211 gave me 30 seconds. They giggled and then they hung up on me. You'll see. I tell you guys, keep rolling around YouTube and Google. You'll see how bad things really are out there. And you'll latch on. And when you find somebody that actually knows what the hell they're talking about, you'll latch on to that. Trust me. I wouldn't be processing nearly 1,000 cases in a year if I was bad at my job. So, yeah. All right, Daniel Beluga. You know what? This gentleman here, he is my number one commenter. Tell you what, I think he's been on since day one. So good to see you, Daniel. He's always commenting on videos. So I think he won the award for that. Lady TH has been around a minute too. A lot of y'all have. So I'm so appreciative to see so many of my regulars show up tonight. It does help when I make videos during normal hours, right? Nikki Richards, hey, good to see you. So, guys, I'm gonna have to wrap this up because I need to get her in the bed and I need to unwind and get off the caffeine. Because, like I said, I feel like popcorn right now. This is a time where you can ask any additional questions you'd like, and I'm happy to answer those questions. Honeybee, oh, second interesting name of the night, Honeybee. Honeybee says, "Hey, hun," and chat. Hey, hit me. Let me know if you got something for me, Honeybee. So let's roll around to. We talked extensively 40 minutes about Section 8. Talk about this Russian issue real quick. I'm hoping, for the sake of those people in that nation, that this war, whatever this is, comes to an end. Most of you have been to the gas pump today. I live in Houston. Look, we have gas so cheap that it's like the dollar store. It is almost it's up to five. Well, it's $4 yesterday, and I bet you when I go see the pump tomorrow, it's probably gonna be 4.50 or five. Let me tell you, that's considerable. You know, think about this. 3 years ago, that gas was $1.99, maybe a little longer. But man, it's we got to put a stop to this, guys. Sonia Grinstab, longtime member of our channel as well, is here. When HA asks for proof of homelessness, do they check references? I'm asking my sister to fill out the affidavit. Well, to be frank with you, housing authorities are not staffed appropriately. They don't have time and investigators to check it out. So typically it's self reporting. However, if they know that you have been to a homeless shelter, they may ask you to roll by the homeless shelter real quick and grab a homeless letter. Believe it or not, a homeless letter is nothing more than something they print out and sign the bottom. There's very few ways to even verify that. Most of you could actually go down to the food bank, tell them you're homeless, and ask for a homeless letter, and they'll print one out without even thinking, okay? Uh, Look, anybody that knows a homeless person out there with a filing cabinet, he's pulling by a rope down the street and he's got proof that he's homeless and all that, no. So I would say in that case, if you type into Google, hey, I live in, let's say Tampa Bay, I would type in there Tampa Bay homeless letter. And then you'll find about 15 different organizations. They got food, clothes, whatever. You walk in there, you talk to a little secretary. Can I get a homeless letter? I can't get anything done in this city. And they'll just print you one out and sign the bottom, and then you're done. It hasn't changed much. Yeah. All right. Michelle Hyatt, I hope it ends soon. I hope so too, for everybody's sake. Look, when you're showing videos in the Russia, well, not Russia, the Ukraine, children being blown up, mothers being blown up, and this is all domestically happening this is not Russia's not a third world country. People are dying for the level of greed. And you know what? I can't say America's done as great as either in its wars against other countries. I think the war is just bad business, period. And the human loss and suffering is a big deal. Um, Anyways, I don't want to get in the political arena about this. I'm just stating the obvious. Nikki Richards, our gas here in Chicago is 5.20. We're not far behind. I think they have one gas pump in the city of Houston that was doing it for 3.15. You wouldn't even want to be in that. That'd be like being in the government cheese line. There'd probably been people 15 miles in a row waiting to get that gas. Cynthia Rose Johnson, how are you? Please read my question. Thank you, Cynthia. Cynthia, I want to tell you your last comment was blocked by YouTube, not me, because clearly my hands are not on a mouse. So you'll have to reiterate that. Look, sometimes, guys, when you make comments, y'all use words that Google may think is bad, but it's not. What you need to do is just make the comment again, just misspell it this time, okay? Or create spaces. YouTube will block words. Look, give you an example. If you say the word stool, they think medically it is a stool, which is doo-doo, right? If you put the conversation in this YouTube chat saying bar stool, which means something you sit on at a bar, it does not distinguish that. It will block those words, okay? It'll block the whole flipping comment. And I don't know. It's their algorithm, and I don't understand it all. So I'm just letting you know. I don't have the last comment, Cynthia. Nikki Richards says, will my sister get kicked out of Section 8 apartment for filing a false PPP loan? Well, I don't think she's necessarily going to be kicked out of the program. She's going to get what we call Section 9. Now, as most of you, let's talk about Section 9 real quick. So we know what Section 8 is, right? You get a voucher, you apply, and so on. So Section 9 is when you go and the feds pick you up and they take you down and you see a judge, and then they take you on a bus and chains and they bring you down to local prison. And there they give you free housing. We call that Section 9. So unfortunately, you don't get a key to your door, and it's 3 huts and a cot or concrete bench, and you receive your very first Section 9 voucher in the federal prison. Okay, that's free housing too. It provides heat, water, food, and yeah, it's a Section 9 voucher, federal prison. So you go out and you do that stuff with PPP, you're going to prison. Trust me on that. They will drag you into federal court. They'll charge your ass up. They'll chain you up. And then after you do about a year in accounting, they'll bring you to do 75% of your time. So the least of that person's concern is going to be committing fraud under the program. It's going to be that they committed PPP fraud. And they've already arrested a lot of people. A lot of people went out there and bought cars and jewelry. They're all now sitting, having their assets liquidated over that drama. So, anyways, Miss Richard, Nikki Richards, I would just say, I hope this is not what I'm thinking, what you're saying, okay? I hope it's not misinterpreting that conversation, because I don't want any of my clients or people that visit here to get Section 9. Nobody wants to be in prison. Honeybee, some apartments not in the Section 8 program, but to move to Section 8 only, allow a month hold an apartment. If you want June, can only... Honeybee, I'm not quite understanding that question. It sounds like you're talking about. It sounds like what you're trying to possibly port or move, that you can only hold an apartment for about a month with a deposit. So I'm not quite sure, because the way you kind of phrase that. Michelle Hyatt, it is sad. It is beyond sad. It really scares me. WW3. We always face that, but I think we're at a time and phase in this world where we're not so quick to press the big button. That won't solve anything if we liquidate and evaporate everybody with nuclear weapons and stuff like that. And I don't like bringing up that word in this YouTube channel, because it probably signals some algorithm that this conversation is going bad. Cynthia Rose Johnson, I am a client of yours since August 1st. I have put them in twice. Need your help. Okay. Well, Cynthia, you do have my email, right? So all you gotta do is email me. You also have my phone number, so you try calling me. I cannot discuss people's private cases in live chat on the live video, Cynthia. I know you know that, so I'll wait for your call, as well as my being able to email me, okay? But putting your case on a public platform is not, I cannot do that. That violates privacy, and I just won't do that. Michelle Hyatt is laughing and giggling, and Violent RS is, I don't even know what that emoji is. It looks kind of weird. Cynthia Rose Johnson goes on to say, stuck in a nursing home approved for housing through COC. December, had to go to ER, hospital 3 weeks, almost 90 days in, nursing home, told the housing case is closed. So you receive COC housing, and then it was later rejected. Well, it sounded like your case was achieved, and then something different happened. Look, guys, when I help people get vouchers and things, it's not an infinite thing where you get something, then you lose it, and then I have to go back and get it again over and over and over again. And already we're talking about an August case, right? Which means that I've been paid once to do casework for a half a year. So you see where a problem might lie in that, because now it would mean that by the time I look at what I'm being paid against 6 months, it means I'm working for a nickel an hour. I'm not suggesting that's your case, Cynthia. I'm just saying that you've already been given an opportunity. You had COC, you lost it somehow, and I don't know. We'll have to talk about it and see. Deborah Payne, how are you? Hello there, and welcome back, Deborah. It's been a minute since I've seen you. Oh, by the way, guys, if y'all wondering, some of these little people commenting, they have little symbols by their name. Those are members. If you want to become a member, it's $1.99, I think, and we use that $1. So YouTube takes half the dollar, cuts it in half, saws it in half. We take the other dollar, we buy cat treats and other neat stuff. So if you want a membership, let me throw up that membership link. You know what? You get in the account, shake that loose change out of there, and throw it at me. I'm going to put out my own little homeless cup and shake it for cat treats. What the hell is it? Here it is. So here's the membership link. If you don't like pets, then that's tough. That's what I choose to do with the money. So, all right, Honeybee. Yes, that is what I was saying. Thank you. Realist Dreamer. Nice name. I have testicular cancer. I'm sorry to hear that. That's usually a pretty tough situation. I think I had another client with a similar position. So I'm sorry to hear that. And James Billy, I had I had deleted from housing is putting in one of my applications. Okay, I'm going to read James. I'm going to read your comment all the way first before I start talking because it's kind of strange how you put it. Okay, so you had an application and you deleted it, and now you're wondering whether or not you can apply for apartment buildings that are subsidized low income. Yeah, absolutely. You most certainly can, James. So you can apply for a number of different things. You know what, guys? Let me give you a link to subsidy housing. Okay, this is a simple one. So why don't we do that right now? Hopefully, I've got it here. All right, here we go. Putting in subsidy housing. Every known property in the United States here. Okay. Look, guys, even when you use a .gov site or other sites, you should always make sure that the landlords are legitimate, okay? Because there's always people trying to do bad things. So just make sure you look into that. All right, guys, I think now would be an appropriate time to wrap this up. It's been 51 minutes. If anybody has any further questions, please ask. Now, here's a few last things we're going to cover before I go. Matthew will be starting Monday. He is English and Spanish speaking, so our videos we will be conversing across and assisting the Hispanic community, whether you're naturalized here, whether you're from Spain, whether you're from South America, or whether you're from Mexico. People that speak Spanish come from many different places, not just Mexico. And so this gentleman speaks a lot of different dialects, and he'll be joining me as an office manager and helping me through this process because the Hispanic community is underserved, just like the Arabic and also Asian market is underserved. And, we had to work through that progress to get there. So I'm excited to announce that. Number two, we're closed on the weekends, guys. Look, I'm not going to pick up the phone. You can call, you can text, you can do smoke signals, you can do telepathy, okay? You can try to bend metal in your mind. I'm not answering that damn phone on the weekends, okay? A lot of people are very insistent on that. I'm not doing it. I work too many hours with this stuff already. Also, we'll be closed on Wednesday. So Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday. If you are a client, you may leave a message on weekends. And if I have some free time, I'll give you a call back. But no, I'm not going to work 7 days a week. I'm sorry. Okay. Some people just think that I'm like Amazon. You can call customer service 24 hours a day. It's simply not real. Just like the gentleman that texts me at 2 o'clock in the morning. He learned very quickly what a refund is and how he's never going to get housing now. Because I'll just simply refer cases to 211. And trust me, you do not want 211 to handle your case. Because I've told you, you get 30 seconds to plead your case, they giggle, and then they hang up. And then we all know about housing authorities, don't we? Because when you get there, they bring out cupcakes, they do a prayer circle, and then everybody's so pleasant. Right. Call the housing authority and see how well that goes for you. So, anyways, Marina Ballard, you're the best of the ALK and the rest. All right. Well, it pays to be good at it, right? So if you're not going to be good at this job, you might as well just go home. Do something different. All right. What else can I tell you guys? Besides that, let's talk a little bit about what I've been offering on the website. For those of you who haven't visited, I'm going to give you the website real quick. Just something to check out. Due diligence. So let's talk about that due diligence part. Do not hire anybody until you've checked their reputation. Like mine, you can call Secretary of State of Texas. They'll tell you that I am a C Corp. These little fools from China and Russia that are wanting y'all to give out your social security numbers, we don't ask anybody that. We're under a 3-page contractual agreement that requires an e-signature. This is not a handshake. We do not accept cash out. That's how you know you're dealing with a con artist, okay? Everything that we do is above the board, which includes the contracts and so on. We use a booking software which allows you an opportunity to book me If you have simple questions, it is $45 plus tax, and that allows you to talk to me for 20 minutes. Okay. For those of you that have simpler issues like portability and so on, and you absolutely just can't figure it out, can't be bothered, or maybe you're suffering from physical or mental issues that prevent you from really being able to get through that, you're struggling with it, okay? Then 2 weeks of casework might be appropriate for you. For those of you that are trying to really get a fine understanding of the system, deal with multiple housing authorities, and try to get a voucher from any place you can, then 4 weeks of casework would be good. So, what is casework? People ask me that a lot. Casework, people will always try to nail that down with me. Everybody comes to me with a different story, a different reason from a different part of the country, in a different county, and a different reason which they'd want a voucher. Casework is when I'm working with you by phone and email all the time to achieve and answer all the questions you have. Besides that, we're looking at all the housing authorities that may have a voucher and the reasons why we might be able to get it for you. Do you have a good case? Is it compelling? Have you fill out the applications in an appropriate manner? What we're not doing is we're not charging anybody to fill out applications. That's illegal. We're not asking people, hey, you know what? I'm going to need your name, your social security number, and your driver's license, because that goes into the arena of identity theft. At no time would we ever ask anybody for personal identifying information. Besides that, let's talk about actually what is being offered. And so I say this as being broad as a consultant. Since I'm not Walmart, you're going there for eggs, milk, and whatever, I can't offer my services in a detailed way in that manner because one one thing being offered will not fit everybody. So I can only tell you broadly what I'm doing for clients, and that's why it's called 2 weeks of casework, 4 weeks of casework, or for those of you that live in difficult states like New York or California, we may choose to work together 90 days. Okay, that means you have full access to me. So what is it that we're doing? We're looking at housing assistance. We're looking at rental assistance programs. We're talking specifically about Section 8, dealing with applications, eligibility. We're talking about the many types of vouchers and subsections like Section 811, Section 8, and so on. Whether we should be dealing with lotteries and waiting lists. We're talking about portability and moving. We're talking about cases that may involve discrimination, and you may be paired up already with a housing advocate and attorney. This wouldn't be the first time that I have worked side by side with attorneys or even spoke with them. I get calls from attorneys all the time. Case work and management is critical with this. If you don't know, if you're not going to sit there and read Title 24 or U.S. Code, if you're not going to read policy, procedure, danger manuals, have an understanding with COC, coordinated entry, or what preferences, or all the other things that go into HCB guides and manuals, then you would want somebody that understands that so you can do case management and research. A lot of this is research. Why? Because one housing authority may have 100 vouchers and the other one has a million. If we're looking into the right housing authorities with a shorter list, then it means you get your case done quicker. And there's just simply more things I know over time than you'll ever know from trying to get crazy advice off Google or skipping around to some of these crazy videos I see on YouTube where people literally are just making videos talking nonsense so they can make a copper penny in ad revenue. You click on their ads, and they talk about some nonsense. All right. In addition to that, we deal with low-income housing, affordable housing, subsidized housing, HUD-VASH, VAWA, which is domestic violence housing, HOPWA, housing opportunities for persons with AIDS or HIV, RRH, which is rapid rehousing, PSH, which is permanent supportive housing. We deal with folks that are homeless. We deal with folks that just got out of the federal pen, out of prison. We're talking about Section 202. And again, Section 811 for those that are disabled and under the age of 62. Those of you that are college students that are just getting their start that may need to temporarily use the system. So that'd be under 504. And the list goes on, man. So, man, I'll tell you what. Now, y'all notice one thing. Did y'all ever see me stop and have to read notes and stickies on this? So you either know this stuff or you're an absolute party clown. That is the difference between watching my videos. I can talk for an hour straight without ever having to look up any of this verbatim. The only way you're going to do that is if you know what you're doing. Now, these other fools in here that are sitting there reading from the party notes from, making these videos, they don't understand this stuff. It's like the blind leading the blind. Watch yourself, do your due diligence, check the reputation of people. Does it match? Are they incorporated? Do they have a business license? Can you see their face? Do you actually know what they look like? If their website, they have an address, is that address to a field with grass in it, or is it to my personal home? So that's the distinguishing factor. I'm not hiding behind anything. It's very clear what I do and how long I do it and for who I do it for. If things were bad results, let me ask you a question. You come in here, you watch a video. This is live. How many people right now are in this live video talking badly about, oh man, I used this guy. It all ended up just going to hell. Nope. 400 videos. How many of those videos have dislikes? The most dislikes I ever got on a video was 6. Go to any other channel, you'd see that they're at 97%, 27%. Tells the truth. You can't buy dislikes. You can't remove them either. So, anyways, reputation does speak for itself. Do your due diligence. When you figure it out, when you get tired, and you want somebody else that understands the system, as I always say, if I'm hot and the air conditioner's broke, I'm not going to be a fool and go and get out a rusty screwdriver and think I can fix it. I call the AC man. If you're having problems and you don't understand the system and you're trying to get through it, then maybe it's time to call a consultant. Everything in this world costs money. Every week I get at least 2 people. Oh, I've got to pay for this. Well, hey, honey buns, you can call up there to Housing Authority and see how that does. Not everything in the world's free. Okay. Your air is free, Jesus is free, and that's it. It's not my job to do it for free. I'm not going to work for a wooden nickel. Are you kidding me? So, anyways, guys, Mr. Thank you for the $5. So $2.50 of that will go towards the care and treats of the kitties, and we're hoping to show you a few more actually. And everybody's been asking about Big Pops, my big one. So I got a big kitty, and he weighs in 17 pounds right now. It's just like a turkey with a tail. So y'all got to see Big Pops. I'm gonna bring one of my videos. Let's look at these comments here real quick. Mr. Beluga says, Guy J, 100% the best. I appreciate that. Nikki Richards, what is your nationality? So that's been asked. A lot of people asked that. Okay, so my grandmother's side, she is German. Okay, she's a Steibe. And on my grandfather's side is going to be French, which is roulette or roulant. So what does that make me? Well, if you're from Louisiana, it makes you a coon-ass. It makes you a Cajun. And if I had a little bit of black or African American in me, it would make me a Creole, possibly Caribbean or Jamaican. But I'm not aware of any. I'm not aware of that part of our lineage having that. So I'm not a Creole, but I am a Cajun. Most people would presume that I look Hispanic, possibly, maybe even Italian. I don't know. And what do y'all think I look like? And does it matter? Miss Renee Brown and Daddy, you never look down. No, I don't. I don't actually. I'm glad that I don't look down, except for when I'm reading these comments, because I do struggle to see the tiny print on this stuff. Bianca, happy? So, all right, guys. I think we've cooled off. We've covered everything we need to cover. So I'm gonna let y'all go. It's been a fantastic talking with you. 1 hour, 3 minutes. We're gonna do this again on another night when everybody's bored. And we're going to get down again and talk about real topics that affect lives and see what we can do. These videos are absolutely free. If you watch enough of them, you can actually be able to solve a lot of your own housing problems. Okay? I've enjoyed seeing y'all, and I look forward to speaking to any of you that at some point may be interested in utilizing the services that I offer. Okay? Y'all have a good night. Bye-bye.